qualified professionals will sit at the same location and perform this self-inspection process for the company. Okay, and as well as quality audits also, the terminology remains same for self-inspection. Okay, there are different types of inspection process. Self-inspection, which is going to be happened internally in the site. If it is going to be planned within a department, it can be called as a informal audit for your performance. Okay, so you don't want someone from other department to come and point out. If any observation has been identified, then that will be recorded, and for all these recorded evidences, you have to create a document. So obviously there will be a very next level of review within your department. Once you complete the day of activity, there will be very next day or the same day, there will be an internal compliance team will take care of the responsibility of review process. So that is your first line of defense within your company. So obviously the very first line of defense is yourself. When you create a document, evaluate the document, check for the adequacy of the document, you yourself identify is there any overwritings observed. So that's why anytime you feel to cut or overwrite, please be careful not to overwrite. Cut the exact data which should be legible after even cutting, then write the proper details why you are cutting and writing the information. Okay, so whether it's once again you have to follow the company policy. If you're writing a correction of the error, you can write error correction or wrong entry, or entry was like we can say calculation error. So what are the words you can use it, because that is based on your procedures. So this is all self-inspection. Okay, what is the objective of the self-inspection? To identify the role of self-inspection in the quality management system. Of course, this is a part of the quality management system, but within your department, it is a kind of your own first level of defense. As I mentioned, you are the first level of defense for your own generated documents. Every individual is the first line of defense to avoid any kind of non-conformance from the document is their own review process after completion the activity. The next level comes with your immediate supervisor, who is going to review or checking the document, whatever you made it performing, right? So that will be the second line of defense. So any mistakes should cross your review because you are doing the first activity, and then the next will be from your superior, immediate superior, and then it goes to the manager of QC. So if all your three of you getting missing the evidence to rectify, okay, then the document goes to the next level of QA, right? So if the QA, this is for individual document, whatever I'm saying is for the individual document. The self-inspection is the process. It comes every quarterly or every 6 months once. But what I'm trying to show, make the scenario is that any document will be the first step of defense is the individual verification. So the next step is your immediate supervisor. The third step is the manager, and fourth step sometimes it goes to your top level management within your department, and further it goes when it's going to the external department, which is quality assurance. Then there will be an additional at least 1 or 2 layer reviews from their end. Okay, usually there will be only one review from the QA as a unbiased third party review. It is considered like that. That's the reason QA is a common function. Okay, so once they also perform the review, any mistakes should not escape from these many eyes. Okay, like 4 to 5 people have been reviewed, right? So any mistake should not be escaped from this review process. If further it got escaped and goes to the next eyes, who is the next eyes will come? Your customer will come for reviewing your audit, your process. Okay, that is called customer audit. The next, after the self-inspection, who else is having an authority to come and check your document? When you produce some manufacturing product and sending to some client, let's take an example. Pfizer is one of the client giving some activity to work for to be performed at Biocon. Take an example. So Pfizer will step into Biocon to ensure that the process, whatever is dictated, are being completely followed by Biocon for the particular project. Okay, so the third-party audit or third-party customer audit will be coming to inspect all of your document, particularly on the particular product. Okay, so when you're doing some project for for the Pfizer, then all the piece of documents generated for the purpose of Pfizer documents will be evaluated by the experts from the Pfizer department, Pfizer company. So this is the customer audit. We call this as a customer audit. Why he is coming? Pfizer team is coming to ensure that your process is adequate to make a product at your premises. That is the intention of the client visit or the customer visit. Sometimes, if the client is not able to access to your site, maybe due to shortage of time or due to some travel restrictions or unavailability of any experts, then these kind of companies will hire a third-party consultant like Pharmageny. So once they hire a consultant like us, we will be on behalf of Pfizer or any X company will visit to the client side, that means manufacturing side, to verify their products and quality, which should comply as per the regulatory requirement as well as the client requirement. So for an example, the client is Pfizer, we have to comply the regulations required for that particular company. But it is very important, the market is going to be in the product is going to be in which market. Let's take an example of US FDA. Then the experts will review the document in compliance to the US FDA regulations. So this is called a customer audit, and this is the next level apart from your internal review process. Okay, first is intra department, and then inter department, and then corporate department, and then comes the client from the other company. Then once everything has been done, the product is registered in the market with the government, and all these regulatory activities has been done. From US regulatory drug inspectors, they will visit your site to ensure that the product is meeting the required intended specification. So they are the authorized from the authority of regulatory US regulations, right? From the Department of Food and Drug Administration. So they are considered like inspectors, drug inspectors. They will come because why they are coming? This product is going to be used in the public in the US. So government is fully responsible for inwarding all these medical products from other country with meeting the quality requirement as defined by US FDA regulations. So like our drug inspector, the US FDA also own their own drug inspectors. So they will be traveling to the site where the inspection has been triggering. Okay, so where all the inspection will trigger for US market? The market is more in India as well as in China. So drug inspector from US already made their station available in India, which means they opened their offices in India. So they reside in India under the embassy, US embassy, that they will be deputed for maybe for certain years to work in FDA office exclusively for Indian scenario. So they have an office in Delhi, Hyderabad, as of now, 2 offices. And similarly, they have an office in China to do the same activity in China. What is the purpose of doing this, stationing at different countries? It avoids multiple travel, so that the person will sit here and work in the nearest place where the manufacturing is happening. For any quick visit, they immediately step into your organization, and they don't want to give any prior information. Any inspection does not need to give any prior information. They can immediately come to your security gate, and they can call the person responsible for the organization and tell that we are here, please pick up for the audit. So there the situation comes for the Indian organization that any time the company should be ready for the visit of drug inspectors from any authority. Maybe it's a US authority, or maybe it's a UK authority, or from EU. So anytime this process is active as they are sitting inside the country. Okay, usually these all manufacturing companies will do that. If there is any they will be asking for what is it called, business visa to travel to India. So that is ruled out. So when you are having business visa, you know that some X person from this background is coming to India to perform this audit. And once the auditor is traveling from US, you will be doing a set of audits, not one audit. So there may be like more than 3 to 4 audits will be planned when 2 or 3 persons are coming from abroad. So that is the indication comes to all the sites, alert themselves that, okay, these 2 guys are here in India for doing some audit. Okay, so now after stationing within India, these kind of hint or informations are not being available for the industries, which means they should be ready at any time for their quality system. So self-inspection is a very, very critical role in the organization to ensure that your system is always getting updated and improved. Okay, so the objective of the self-inspection, to identify the role of self-inspection in the QMS, to review the way in which a self-inspection program should be carried out. So that should be a very identical process where the external third party or regulatory agent come and inspect your site. To discuss what to inspect and verify in a company's self-inspection system. So that should be very clear what to be inspected during the course of self-inspection. So the principle behind the self-inspection. The purpose of self-inspection is to evaluate whether a company's operations remain in a compliant with GMP. So any activity should compliance with the regulatory international regulation. If it is a US regulation, you have to follow the US regulation. If you are having a EU regulation, you have to comply with the EU regulation. So GMP is a general terminology that is specific to different market. Assists in ensuring quality improvement. Of course, self-inspection is always a continuous learning process. Any observations noted, any discrepancies noted will be documented and proper action to be taken for those observations. The program should cover all aspects of production and quality control, because production and quality control are the main department where the process is being taken place and testing is being taken place. Designed to detect shortcomings in the implementation of design GMP. So any shortfalls or any discrepancies are identified through this process. So your self-inspection should be robust with given time. It should not be like okay, today 1 day is enough for doing this inspection. That is not the way for the self-inspection. You have to do a thorough, detailed audit. It's not. Sometimes it can be a random, but maximum it should be try to cover the maximum portion of the document. If you have 100 documents, at least you should be able to review 70% of the document. Okay, yourself means within the intra-department review should be 100% at least. Okay, from QA review maybe 50 to 70%, because they can't able to go and check every document. When it will be done, the every document check in a periodic review process, the QA will perform. But when they title the process as self-inspection, they will come for minimum 3 to 5 days in the department, and they check from previous leftover self-inspection date. Okay, for example, 6 months back there was a self-inspection has been completed. From that time onwards till this time, during the next inspection, what are all the documents have been generated? So that will be the piece of documents for their review process. So once they review, they will give all the observations. For example, if you have made a calculation error and you release the product, okay, by reviewing the document, they find that you have taken a wrong calculation method, okay, then that will be highlighted as an observation and then given to your department or to QA. So accordingly, you have to take the necessary corrective actions. So that is recommended corrective action. Set a timetable for corrective action to be completed. So once you're got the observation as a non-conformance, it is your responsibility to react on the observation. Okay, so once the observation has been identified, it will be categorized as critical, major, or minor. Critical, again, it's a direct product quality. Major, non-impacting product quality or indirect product quality, something like that. Low, maybe somewhere for the minor observation is an improvement point. Okay, for example, the person has missed to enter in the logbook for his entry. It's not going to impact the product quality. That is a low level of or minor level of category of observation. If suppose the person has failed to perform an analysis and the report has been completed and for example the product has been released to the market even, then it's a serious non-conformance. The rating will be critical. Okay, so this is the explanation for critical, major, minor. But why I'm stressing that point here, your corrective action timetable is respect to your criticality of the observation. If you have a critical observation, I can't tell that, okay, after 6 months I will complete the critical observation, because any critical should be immediately addressed and get solved. If you can't live with a critical observation always. So that is the reason critical observation should be reacted very short time. The short time may be not fixed because that depends upon the intensity of your observation. For example, that observation needs to be done some validation. So validation minimum it will take 10 to 15 days, and following other testing process or training, so or any taking of deviation. So if you see minimum 15 days to 20 days it will take to completely address the problem. Okay, so very first thing is that criticality. Based on the criticality, your time should be set for the corrective action for implementation. So self-inspection to be performed routinely, which means every quarter or every 6 months once. It should be planned. Also on, but the guidelines requirement is at least a year, 1 year. Okay, but people will have a vigorous frequency to ensure that they are in a compliance state always. Also, on special occasions such as recalls, suddenly if you got any recall due to some issue, the product is returned from the market to your premises. Obviously, you have to do a for-cause inspection. We call it as a for-cause inspection. Repeated rejection. So you find some repeated rejection is happening in the system. Again, that is also called as a for-cause inspection. Okay. When a GMP inspection is announced by the National Drug Authority. So usually when the announcement comes, sometimes many times the announcement will not come, but if suppose there is a clean record of your company, everything is being well addressed to the company, means the authorities, then there may be a formal invitation that USFDA or any regulatory authority will send you an invite that we are planning to visit your site in the month of August. Please provide us some 3 to 4 dates. So then you have to work on the dates according to satisfy the auditors' requirements. For example, they want to check the production area. So you can't tell that in this particular week my production is stopped. So you come and do your inspection by that time. No. When they are coming, your activity should be in running, because that is a real-time scenario where the GMP inspector can witness your process and procedures. So self-inspection team should consist of a personnel who are objective and have no revenge in mind. So this is not the time to take revenge. It's an improvement process. Always self-inspections, audits, customer audits, regulatory audits, everything is for the improvement purpose. We are not going to punish the company. We are going to ensure that the product manufactured at the site is complying to the required regulations. That is the intention of the self-inspection as well as any regulatory inspection. So it's not to punish or make you to debar or something like that. It is for the improvement process. Have no conflict of interest, which means it should be an unbiased audit. So if I'm going to audit my own department, definitely I'm not going to tell thousands of mistakes in my department, right? Because that is a defame for me. I won't be, seeing that as a good for my department. So obviously, there will be a third person will be coming for the self-inspection process. Should have minimum experience as observer of a self-inspection team before becoming a team member. So this is very, very important. So if you want to be a part of the self-inspection team, you should have some experience as an observer or as a junior self-inspection team member. Okay, so you'll be accompanying with the leader. There will be a senior person who will drive the self-inspection, and you will be associated with him and doing the activity. So by this kind of training, then you can become a matured self-inspection inspector. Okay, the team should be led by an experienced person. That's the one I mentioned. Procedure should be documented. So you should have a clear procedure how the self-inspection program will run in the site. Okay, if effective follow program CAPA implementation, that is after completing the process of observation and given to the site individual members, individual department, then you should be in the position to effectively follow the program for the corrective and preventive actions. So daily inspection informally you can do within your department, which is called as an immediate correction, which means you review the document and found something is missed. On the same day, you ask the particular guy to come and refill the missed points. Okay, so that is your immediate check. You don't want to wait for someone from a different department to come and check. Okay, so always have this system, because your system is rated based on your observations, non-conformance. If you have more non-conformance, then they will tell QC is having more non-conformance compared to QA or compared to production. Okay, obviously QC is doing more job, but they are well trained. So there should not be any repeated or many non-conformance should be highlighted. Okay, the self-inspection quarterly planned as a formal system by QA will improve the system. Okay, improve your quality system. QC, you can do your internal compliance by the, not by the juniors, at least by the senior, like manager and the vice president of QC. You can do internally within every half year, which confirms the compliance, which means that you are monitoring your regular activities, that you are still in the good state of compliance. So the self-inspection, written restrictions provide minimum and uniform standard, okay, which should cover all the GMP aspects like personal, premises, including personal facilities, maintenance of building and equipment, storage of starting material and finished products, equipment, production and in-process control, and quality control. Okay, so in USFDA, they used to call as six-system approach. Okay, usually this six-system approach is a common word used in the industry. So what are the six-system approach? So it is quality system. Okay, so I hope you remember morning we talk about this 5M concept. Okay, now this is six-system approach, where the company will be having followed by six main stream of activity. Okay, one is quality system, which is a quality assurance system. Second one is QC, okay, which includes microbiology as well. So that is the second system. Third one, facility and equipment. If you want, you can make a note. Facility and equipment is the third system, which means your building and your process equipments, everything comes under the facility and equipment. And the next thing is about the material management system or material control system, which is the procurement of the material, and your warehouse management is a material control system. Then the fifth one is the production system, okay, which means the process where your manufacturing of the product is happening. And the final sixth one is the packing and labeling system. Okay, so there are 6 system approach: quality system, QC, quality control, facility and equipment, material control system, production system, packing and labeling system. In QC, always there is a QC chemical and QC microbiological. So microbiological department is very, very important in terms of sterile manufacturing products. Okay, so some internal process companies will have separately for QC microbiology also the audit team. Okay, so this is the 6 system approach, and your compliance will be rated based on, definitely the quality system will be the main for your compliance. When, of course, the internal inspection will happen for all the department. Okay, but when the external department comes, they will be targeting maximum all the department. If not, they will go for 4 to 5 departments. Okay, that is QA system is important, QC important, and facility and equipment, particularly for that building, will be important. Production is important. Okay, rest they can have an excuse because in short time they can't able to do all the reviews. So that is the reason it will be always that they will go with the limited number of response review for the system wise, but internally they will do all, and even sometimes regulatory will come for more than 5 to 10 days, sit in your premises and deep dive all your documentations from all the departments. So be please ready for such kind of preparedness. Okay, so the next one, documentation. Again, the continuation of the items in the self-inspection. Documentation from every department will be scrutinized during the inspection process. Of course, I'm talking about the self-inspection, not the third party or regulatory inspection. Okay, sanitation and hygiene, that is very important. Validation and revalidation programs, calibration of instruments and measurements, recall procedures, complaint procedure, label controls, and previous self-inspection, any corrective action to be completed. So what is the important key point by coming to know that the company is performing very well? So one topic will determine that company is performing very well, which is that if you don't have complaint, okay, and recall, which means you're not getting back any damaged product or a non-conforming product to the site, that is the weightage that your products are in the market and you're doing successful business. So anytime you see that your products are being, a lot of complaints are there and recall has happened, your quality system is poor. That is the main indication. If you get more complaints, what will think? Okay, this company is not doing well, so that's the reason we are getting more complaint from the company. So that is an indication. If there is more complaint, the customers are not happy with the company or happy with the product delivered by the company. So in such case, this will trigger for anyone as an inspector. If you have more complaint, then that gives a wrong impression about the company. And similarly for the recall. So these 2 points will help you to understand the company performance. Okay, so now there may be a chance you will be getting a lot of complaint, but you will be defending that complaint. Okay, this is not my complaint, this is not my complaint, I don't have that kind of problem in my system. So you will be receiving the complaint, you will be recording the complaint, but you will be defending the complaint according to the nature of the complaints. Okay, that may also happen. But still, if you genuinely rejected the complaints which is not under your control, obviously you can still say you're a good quality system managed company. But suppose you are voluntarily or intentionally avoiding some complaints, then you are not suitable for this position. So obviously your management should think about that, how best you are going to implement the system instead of hiding something behind. Okay, this is very, very important. So the team appointed by the management or the quality department will organize this team. Authority, sufficient expertise should be there, maybe from inside or outside the company. So nowadays there is a practice that third party consultant can also be supporting for the self-inspection process. Experts in their own field, familiar with GMP, all these pool of team can be used for the execution of self-inspection process. Frequency, as per the guideline, it is at least once a year, but there won't, it depends upon the company size, requirements, and activities. You can have the defined frequency internally. It can vary from quarterly to 6 months once. But internal verification, which is intra-department verification, can happen every day also. At least once in a week, a senior manager should verify your document. That will make the proactiveness and progressiveness in the documentation of the company. Okay. Often, departments are inspected according to a calendar, one department per month. Okay, they will keep in a rotation. This is again a company to company policy variations. If you have 12 months, they have 6 departments. So first month they will go for QA, then QC, production, warehouse, and then the cycle start for the next 6 months. Okay, but a very matured company will not go for this kind of invigilation. They go as a team for 5-member team for 6 department, and they do the execution for minimum 5 days, and they come out and give a proper documentation with the report, observation report. So which means that the complete all the site readiness, site preparation is been evaluated. Why? Because if you do monthly one department, sometimes suddenly their audit comes within the 3rd month. So you will be left only with the first 2 departments. Other 3 or 5 departments or 6 departments will not be evaluated. So this is a risk to the company. So that's the reason always they plan a team for same time execution by taking 5 to 6 days for the process of self-inspection. So report prepared at completion of inspection, as I mentioned, include the result, evaluation, conclusion, and recommended corrective actions. So it is also the duty of the reviewer or the inspector to provide some solution how to come out with the existing problem. So that is the reason for sending experts, right? So not only to identify the problem, we have to properly guide them to provide a proper response for the corrective actions. That is important. Follow-up action. So after you complete the audit, okay, the self-inspection, internal audit, self-inspection, everything is a same terminology. Okay, after the completion of the self-inspection, there will be a follow action, which means effective follow program, company management to evaluate both the report and the corrective action, which means someone will commit that I will update the SOP by August 2021. Okay, you have to go back and ensure that by the defined time of August, whether the procedure has been implemented or not, whether the team is working for that conclusion of that observation or not. So this is the important activity. They can't deny that they won't do that or not, because this has been bound by the documentation. They agreed for completing that by within the set of time. Okay, but the tracking mechanism, once again, the quality modules are there in the electronic system to manage all this documentation and notifications and completion of this target, everything. There are many automated documentation, electronic documentation practices or electronic document management system like TrackWise, Viva, and Adaptive, ETQ. There are a lot of softwares are in the market for that purpose. Quality audit. This is an examination of all are part of quality system. As I mentioned, it can be rated with the 3 system or 4 system or all the systems sometimes. The aim is to improve the particular system, right? We are not here to make them for punish them or identify their mistakes. Mistakes is happening, but ultimately the responsibility of QA is reduce the mistakes. So 0 error is the expected number in their always in their premises for the company. Usually conducted by outside experts or team appointed by the management. Sometimes third party also will come for this kind of opportunity. Useful to supplement self-inspection program with quality audits. Yeah, it can be done together. May be extended to supplier and contractors. If it is needed, they can go beyond the contractors as well as the suppliers, because you have to ensure your quality from the supplier as well. That's the reason. So supplier audits and approvals. Quality unit like QA or QC responsible together with other relevant department for approving the suppliers. So either they do through documentation. For example, they will get all the necessary document for the supplier audit. We call it as a vendor questionnaire, vendor surveillance program, whatever we can term it as. So once this question form will be submitted by the vendor, then all the attached documents will be verified, and then we'll confirm whether the product is meeting our specification or not. Then we'll go for the acceptance. Of course, there is a commercial terms involved for the pricing and other stuff. Quality side, once we give a clearance, then that can be that material is allowed to come inside the premises. So then that is called supplier audit. Once you approve the supplier, then the list should be generated. That particular name of the company will be listed in your approved supplier list. We call it as a ASL, or approved vendor list. We call it as a AVL. So this, once the vendor list is being generated, that is your main document to confirm that always the product come from this list of members only, from this list of vendors or suppliers. Okay, so that is the reason we maintain the approved vendor list. Any material comes apart from the approved vendor list, it's not allowed to enter into the premises. Okay, so this is very clear. It should be always an approved vendor or approved supplier. Ensure that the suppliers can reliably supply material that meet established specification. Obviously, you are getting some product from your supplier. They are forced to follow their specification and to comply with the regulations requirement. Okay, suppliers should evaluate and approve before they are included in the approved supplier list. That's the one I mentioned. So they will be taking some samples and check their quality and how they perform. As I mentioned, they will check their number of customer complaints, how much they got. So that will give some initial database whether to go ahead with the client or not, with that particular customer or not. Okay, should take into account the supplier history and nature of material to be supplied. So also very important is about the supplier history. They are in the market for long time with continuous supply support, and there is no any time they have been kept shut down. Always they are committed to the business. All these soft and technical skills will play to deliver the product within the time and to work amicably with the departments, with our finance department as well, or procurement department. Because sometimes we will be in a very short urgency. We may ask the supplier, you have to give me tomorrow this material. Okay, some will accept, some will be denying that. So all these supplier list will evaluate all these functionalities, all these parameters, the factors which will be supporting for the business opportunity. Yeah, so evaluation may also lead to an audit to assess compliance with GMP. Okay, that's the evaluation part. Inspecting self-inspection program. GMP inspectors should preferably check self-inspection program at the end of an inspection. Usually when this regulatory agency person is coming, they obviously go through your self-inspection program, but not your observations, because sometimes your observations are considered as confidential. But still, nothing is confidential in the industry. So either it is your observation or whoever's observation. If they have some doubt, they will definitely ask you to share the observations also. They have full rights to share the company observations, because even if it has been identified by different person, they will evaluate what kind of seriousness has been identified in that observations, and what kind of adequate actions you have taken for the complying that particular observation. So for all these reference, the inspector may be looking after your self-inspection program as well. Evaluate, okay, the team will evaluate the SOP, annual program, schedule, checklist used in the company, check that inspections are done as per schedule, reports are available, CAPAs are taken. So all this documentation part will be reviewed. So auditing the self-inspection program. So SOP should be described, team, process, items covered, and the frequency of self-inspection. So SOP is the document. Will speak about the complete program. Company policy may not permit GMP inspector to see actual deficiency report and corrective actions. What I told a few minutes back, the same. Your company policy may not allow, but still they have full rights to see your documents. GMP inspector should be looking for compliance with the self-inspection SOP, not necessarily at actual deficiencies recorded. Okay. Seek objective evidence of report and actions. They want to see the report and action, at least not the details of observation, but list of observations. Maybe numbers of observation, or how many critical and how many major. So all these, analytics, they may ask if they don't want to see the real observations. So auditing the self-inspection program, ensure company is not just doing housekeeping or safety audits. Okay, usually company will do the audits like the auditors will do this kind of audits. I saw there is a dust in the equipment. Okay, so you can clean. So this is not an observation. Okay, you have to see the systemic issue. One time you can leave this observation as well. Okay, when you find, okay, there is an layer of dust particle settled, maybe during your visit they may not be cleaned. That's okay, that's fine. It's not a serious issue because it's not directly impacting the quality of the product unless it has not been cleaned effectively before the process. But sometimes there will be a layer of dust settled for more than 10 months, 12 months, 1 year. You can feel that level of dense dust. Okay, then that is a serious issue, which is a systemic issue, where the housekeeping is not at all worried about the dust particle settled there and is not ready to clean it. Where it will be there, for example, if you see the top of the incubators, it will be dust. Okay, so which means your housekeeping is not taking a full access to clean the every part of the machineries. So then these are the observations will come. Of course, this is a silly observation, but still it is valid. Reason because it's a systemic observation. You forget that job to be completed by you for more than 1 year or at least something like that. Check there are vertical as well as normal horizontal audits. Both play a valuable role in the self-inspection. This is something like vertical and horizontal is a technical word here, which means if you take one analytical report, okay, so that analytical report will talk about how you done pH meter testing. Then you go to the pH meter, take the pH meter logbook, verify it, take the any other calibration, pH meter calibration logbook, verify. So this is a vertical method. So one by one, based on the testing, you go and do an audit, do an self-inspection. Okay, this is the vertical method. Horizontal method, it's irrespective of product, what are all the list of observation. Whatever you go into the room, you see 10 equipments or 10 instruments. You start discussing all the 10 instruments, okay, till you get the confidence that yes, this team is working efficiently and confidently. By talking with the team itself, you can understand whether they are efficient or they are just trying to match the game. Possible issues during the self-inspection: size of the factory. Sometimes it is a huge capacity site. You have to do in a phase-wise manner. Source of team. Maybe you take 2 people, but the workload is very more there. Source of team members who is participating in the audits. Okay, that also matters for the issue here. Reports and feedback. So on-time delivery of report is very important because sometimes after completion of the audit, people will be left relaxed and they won't give the observations back, and it will be kept open for a very long time. So these are all the possible issues can be identified in the self-inspection program. I think that's the end of the slide. So there is another break for another 10 minutes. So we'll be joining by 4:10. Okay, so I gave 13 minutes of time. So we'll be joining by 4:10, and there will be a next topic is a really interesting topic about qualification and validations. Okay, so please pay attention because every topic is an interesting topic for me. Even I was been spending many years in this subject. So please be paying attention in this because this is going to be your future support in your career. Okay, thank you so much. Be online. We'll join by 4:05. Sorry, 4:10. So, okay, guys, we are back here. So, we'll be starting now the next session about qualification and validations. Okay, so this is a very interesting topic in the industry, and it is very, highly technical activity also in the industry. Okay, all the qualification and validation details and data are very important to prove that either your equipment or your process or your cleaning activity or your computer system activity, everything is in a defined state as to be intended to deliver its output. Okay, so when we have an autoclave, the reason for having the autoclave is to kill the organisms, sterilize the material. So that is the expectation, right? Whether it does its activity as per intended use is important. So we have to qualify the autoclave. We call it as an autoclave validation or qualification. The terminology sometimes will be used here and there, but it will be a validation for the autoclave. So what is validation? You are ensuring that piece of instrument for which purpose it has been brought to the process has been fulfilled its activity. So that is the reason for this qualification and validation. This is applicable for any process. For example, cleaning. Cleaning is a process. Okay, so once you take some, you know, mm, any kind of detergents, add it in water with 100 ml or 200 ml. So there is some concentration of detergent in the water, and then take that and use your cleaning methodology. So you have to keep a process of how to clean the machineries. Okay, it's a unidirectional cleaning process. So once you're doing this and further you're cleaning with hot water or maybe with cold water, whatever maybe, after you complete the cleaning activity, you will take some sample of rinsed water and prove that the sample is the rinsed water sample is not having the previous contamination. So that is the cleaning validation. So every process has its own validation requirements. Let's take an example. Now you want to clean the production area, right? So what is the purpose of cleaning the production area? That should be get removed the previous any chemical contaminations or residues are left in that area, because you'll be using that area for preparation of some products, right? And then microbiologically, so after your cleaning, the chemical and microbiologically microbiological organism, right, should be not present in that area. So that is the effectiveness of your cleaning, area cleaning. Okay, so equipment, similarly, you should have a verification, validation, and for area as well as process validation. We call it as a process validation. That is a manufacturing process, right? So you'll be having some lyophilization process. Let's take an example, lyophilization. So already the R&D will define the process parameters, how to lyophilize. So once you come, the lyophilization should have the capacity to comply all the process parameters. Sometimes you maybe keep the lyophilizer at minus 60 degree. Okay, so whether the capability of that lyophilizer is there to keep and hold the material at minus 50 or 60 degree. And you may be need to create a vacuum in the lyophilizer. So whether the vacuum creation is good enough and sustain and maintain in the instrument. So this verification of data is called as a validation. So sorry. The objective here to review basic aspects of qualification and validation program, to understand the scope of validation and qualification, introduction to documentation associated with this validation. Okay, so what are the documentation needed for this? Validation, a very straight definition for validation. Action of proving, okay, in accordance with the principles of GMP, that any procedure, process, equipment, material, activity, or system actually leads to the expected results, which means intended use. Okay, so any process, procedure, equipment, material, activity of or system, computerized system, which actually leads to the expected result. That is called validation. What is then qualification, right? Action of proving that any premises, systems, and items of equipment work correctly and actually lead to the expected result. So validation is a terminology, it's exclusively for individual activities. When it comes as a qualification, it's a collective of activity. For example, I do a mission, filling mission validation. What is filling mission? It's a mission which fills the product into the container. Okay. So if you separately speak about the mission, that is called validation. And if you speak about the mission with the personal interventions, and in the environment there is a temperature and RH maintenance and all other equipment functioning together for one purpose, one intended purpose, right? That is called the qualification. It's a collective of actions from various supporting and accessory activities performed together. That is called qualification. So validation usually incorporates the concept of qualification. Principle, qualification and validation, essential part of GMP. Of course, this is a very important prime part of GMP as well, because your all the procedures, whatever you written, how to operate the autoclave. The basic of how to operate the autoclave comes from the autoclave validation package. What temperature you have to set? Usually you know what is the autoclave temperature, right? It is 121.1. Why that 0.1 degrees Celsius comes? Suppose you don't know, it is, if you convert that into the Fahrenheit, it is like 250 Fahrenheit. Okay, so when you're converting the Fahrenheit to the Celsius, centigrade, then that 121.1 degree comes into the picture. And what is the need of pressure there? It is 15 lbs. Okay, in terms of kg per centimeter square, it will be told as 1.2 kg per centimeter square. Okay, so the combination of temperature and pressure and time, okay, these three combination of process parameters will be important in the autoclave validation. Of course, the principle of autoclave lies with the time, temperature, and the pressure. So when these three have been put in right place, right timing, obviously the organism which has been inside the autoclave, inside any component or any article, get killed, super killed, or it has been told as overkill approach. They call it in industry as an overkill approach, which means 10 power 6 cells. For example, you know how many cells will be there in one solution. If you titrate it, you can know that whether it is having 10 power 6 or 10 power 8 cells. If you keep 1 ml or one test tube of 10 power 6 CFU per ml, okay, I'm telling in per ml, if there is a 10 power 6 cells which has been kept inside the autoclave, after the successful cycle of autoclave, you should get 0 count, which means that 10 power 6, which means 10, after 1 there will be 6 zeros, right? So after the some time, that should be come down to 1 or less than 1, okay, which means that is called as a 10 power 6. Okay, now what is 6 log reduction? This is 6 log reduction. 10 with 6 zeros. 1 log reduction means 1 with 5 zeros. Sorry, 1 with 6 zero is a 6 log. 1 log reduction means that set of 1 power 1 power 6, sorry, 10 power 6 will come down to 10 power 5. That is 1 log reduction. In that case, you will be having 1 with 5 zeros. And then second log reduction, that is 1 with 4 zeros. Then 1 more log reduction, third log reduction is 1 with 3 zeros. And then fourth log will be 1 with 2 zero. And finally, sixth log will be only one organism will be left. This is called 6 log reductions. Okay. When we call it as an overkill approach, in that sense, it is that 12 log reduction. You have to go in a reverse way once again. After 6 log reduction, you will be having 1, correct? So 1 will be having 6 log reduction, 1 CFU. one organism is remaining after 6 log reduction. Then you have to put 0.1, that is 7th log reduction. Please specify here, please pay attention here. Up to 1 it is 6 log reduction, and after 1 the next is the 1 divided by 10, that is 0.1. So when 0.1 comes, it is a 7th log reduction. 0.01 is the 8th log reduction. 0.001 is the 9th log reduction. So when it goes to the 12th log reduction, you will be having 0.000, that is 4, 5 zeros and 1. So this is the 12 log reduction, which means that 1 in million, okay, one organism in 1 million, it will be remaining. The success rate of growth is that much. Okay, so this is called 12 log reduction. This is an example for the autoclave. This is the place how they validate the autoclave. Manufacturer has to identify what qualification and validation work is required. So as informed, everything goes with the intended use. If I use the autoclave for 121 degree, you have to validate it for 121 degree. You can move it to 122 to 124 as well, because there will be a fluctuation of the temperature. So it can't be same at the same place, one point, okay? Because of the steam movement in and out, there will be variation in the temperature, okay? So your expectation is not less than 121.1. That is the autoclave requirement, right? So people will be at the safer side. They will keep like 122 to 124. So accordingly, the time can vary. There is a deep calculation is available in the documents. You can go through. When you're preparing your presentation, you can identify all these in the autoclave validation practices, right? So it is there is a formula behind that, how to do the calculation also. If it is 121.1, don't consider 121.2. Okay, if you put 121.1 for 15 minutes, then your F0 value, there is a terminology called F0 value, will be 15 minutes. Okay, if you put 121.2, the F0 will be increasing. Okay, because this 0.1 degree will give a change in the complete data of F0 value. So this is a separate document, separate information we can study in the later session. But generally, it is a validation practice as per your intended use. Provides proof that critical aspects of work are controlled and provided documented evidence. So whatever the critical aspects are there, you have to verify or validate in your process, in the equipment. For example, I have an autoclave. I should validate in 121.1 or 122 degree. I should not validate my autoclave with 60 degree. Okay. Another example, I have a stability chamber. Hope you may be knowing the stability chamber. If not, let's consider the incubator. Okay, everyone might be knowing the incubator, BOD incubator. So the purpose of the BOD incubator is to provide a required temperature so that the Petri plates or any solution which keeps inside will support for the growth of the organism. So what are the temperatures are there? 20 to 25 is one of the temperature, 30 to 35 is another temperature. And sometimes 57.5 degrees also there is a temperature for some organism to grow. If you want to validate your chamber, okay, inoculation incubator, we call it as an incubator or chamber, then you have to validate at setting at 20 to 25 degree, and then 30 to 35 degree, and 50 to 55 degree as well. So when you keep the temperature setting, and you have to verify that yes, all the places inside the chamber, okay, based on the volume. So if it is like 300 volume, it is like verified that complete chamber is been tested for the purpose of temperature distribution. Okay, the temperature is distributed and maintained at a required condition. So that is the purpose of validation. It should be unique in all the places. So if there is a variation, you identify the temperature cannot be withstand or not coming to the level of 25 degree. if you set at 25 degree and at one place you are getting always 30 degree, then that place is not in a good position to keep your product for incubation. Okay, if you identify that place is not working fine, then you have to rule out not to keep anything at that location, because the intended temperature was not achieved at that particular location, right? So this is the place where the supplier, the equipment supplier, will support you to get a required specification of intended use. So what is the purpose of the chamber? It should distribute a required temperature across the chamber. Wherever you keep, it should reach that temperature. If that is not coming, then it's a equipment error, equipment malfunction. So it is invalid. So you can't accept the validation data in such case. Then you have to remove that equipment from the premises. So after successful validation of any equipment, then only you can use it for your routine use. Any equipment comes to the industry in your premises should be first subjected for their supplier's qualification. They call it as a supplier side qualification. Once they done all their installation and other stuffs, everything, then only we will go for our other qualification. So we will see what are the flow in the qualification program. Provide proof that critical aspects of work are controlled and provide documented evidence. So there should be a documented evidence by printouts for temperature and other stuff. Key elements of qualification and validation are defined and documented. Policy and approach. We call it as a validation master plan, which is called VMP. So VMP is nothing but a complete scenario of the company's validation master plan. What are all comes under that? Everything is important, which is listed in the validation master plan. We will go to that in the following slides. Documented evidence to prove that premises, supporting utilities and equipment. Okay, so any protocol, so validation, we call it as a protocol. Anywhere in the validation and qualification document comes, it is a protocol. We call it as protocol. Okay, so have designed in accordance with GMP. Also referred as the DQ where appropriate. So design qualification, which means that where you are going to keep the temperature, this chamber. Let's take a BOD incubator. So BOD incubator should not be kept in the hot zone, which means if you keep some hot air oven or DHS, dry heat sterilizer, where the place will be really hot, okay, you should not keep at that location this incubator. So the premises is very important when you are placing any instrument. Okay, for example, if you are going to keep a HPLC, you can't keep very close to the hot zone. It should be in a proper air condition because it needs a proper aeration and cooling support for the proper operation of the machineries. Because everything comes with the electronic boards and circuits, right? So you can't give a high temperature environment for that. So premises is important. Supporting utilities. So many times you will be having some supporting utilities like steam is required for autoclave, right? You will be having inbuilt steam or industry steam which comes from the piping. So that is called utilities, as well as electrical utilities, equipment. So everything is considered as a fixing at defined location is considered as a design qualification. So document evidence. Similarly, for the this is first is a DQ. We saw it is called design qualification, and similarly the document evidence along with premises, supporting utilities and equipment have been built and installed in accordance with their design specification, right? That is called IQ, that is installation qualification. Mostly this DQ, IQ, OQ. No, that is next one is called OQ, which means document evidence to prove that supporting utilities and equipment operate in accordance with their design specification. So design specification means 121 degree at 15 minutes at 15 lbps. That is the design specification for autoclave. For BOD incubator, it is 25 degree or 35 degree or 45 degree or 65 degree. Whatever you set, that is the design specification. So when you verify this temperature settings, that is called operational qualification. So the first one you saw is the DQ. This is design qualification. The next one is an IQ, it's installation qualification. And then the next one is the OQ, it's the operational qualification. And then the supporting document with supporting utilities and equipment perform consistently in accordance with their design specification. Okay, so perform means after you are confirming that yes, my distribution of the chamber with 25 degrees is adequate everywhere, I got the data that is temperature is 25 degree, you have to keep for 72 hours or 82 hours or 100 hours to take the data. Okay, that is without your product or without any plate or anything placed inside the incubator. That is only the instrument, right? Only the equipment. That is the equipment performance. That's it. Now you have to challenge with the load. What is the load inside the chamber? It is the Petri plates you'll be keeping, or any test tubes with the solution you will be keeping, or any other testing utensils like glassware sometimes. So whatever you're doing a testing, that will be kept inside the chamber. Let's take an example of autoclave. So whatever you are going to sterilize will be kept inside the autoclave. That is your load. Okay. Let's take a filling machine. So the same is applicable for the filling machine also. The filling machine, the variety of size of vials will go, and the filling speed is important. If I set 100 vials per minute, so the capacity of the filling machine to deliver 100 vials in a minute with after filling, that is the specification. Okay, so this is a various example for IQ, OQ, and PQ. So when you are doing a filling activity, like I want to dispense some viscous solution 2 ml, okay, then the process, once it starts, the filling machine starts operating, there will be a settings in the filling machine to dispense only 2 ml, then the filling starts happening. At the end, you verify the weight, whether it is 2 ml is being dispensed or not. That is the performance of the equipment. Okay, so documented evidence to prove that specific process will consistently produce a product meeting its determined specification and quality attributes, also referred as process validation. Okay, so as I told, individual equipment validation is a equipment validation separately. Okay, so completely a process is a qualification, as well as we call it as a process validation here, because all area is ready, analyst operators are ready after qualification, because even the operators should have a SOP training and other qualification ready for the process, right? So he is also qualified, means the operator is also ready, area is ready, equipment is ready, all other utilities like compressed air or nitrogen or area temperature and RH, everything is kept ready. And now we are going with the actual product filling. The first batch, if you're taking with the product filling, after all the piece of integrated instruments, accessories, equipment, even the person come together in one point of contact, is called process validation. So before starting the process validation, it is very, very important. All the accessories come for the process should be in a validated state. That is very, very important. So qualification and validation applicable to any aspect of operation which may affect the quality of the product, either directly or indirectly. Anything affect the product quality, it is to be subjected for qualification and validation. Okay, the example, premises, because your area is there, the cleaning is the one of the activity that should be validated. Temperature maintaining, that should be validated. Facility, lighting, which is a requirement of light. If your product is a light sensitive, then how much light is needed, or what fluorescent light or monochromatic light, whatever light is needed, that needs to be validated. Equipment needs to be validated. What is the process timing, process parameters should be validated. So everything comes together as a process validation. In case of significant change, okay, consider the need for requalification or revalidation. Okay, so once you've done all these systems and processes validated, now if you want to change a piece of equipment, then you have to do a reprocess validation or revalidation or requalification. Okay, if you're modifying the process step or upgrading or newly introducing a process step, that also needs to be validated. If suppose you want to use the autoclave at 135 degree, but initially you are not used or validated for 135 degree, but now you are planning to use for 135 degree, then you have to prepare a protocol, subject it that I'm going to do this 135 degree sterilization, so that whether my autoclave is working fine with that high level temperature for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever may be your time interval. So this is the new requirement. Accordingly, you have to subject your equipment for the validation. Once the equipment is successfully completing the acceptance criteria for the output of the validation, then you can go and update your procedure. Yes, this existing model of autoclave is also capable of performing this 135 degree centigrade sterilization process also. This is the significant change, needs to be requalified or revalidated. So the next one is about the qualification and validation should be done in accordance with an ongoing program, which is initial qualification and validation, annual review, determine the need for revalidation. Okay, so sometimes, always that is important, because these are all mechanical parts as well as electrical components are there, so that there will be a frequency where the revalidation will happen. Sometimes if you are overconfident that yes, my process is robust, you can have 2 years once, if not it can be yearly once. So it is once again based on the risk assessment. So you can assess on the risk. Yes, I want to keep my frequency every 2 years, if not every single year, every annually I have to do my validations. Ensure continued validation status is maintained. So anytime the instrument should be in the validated state. There should not be any time which is being left without validation completion. Of course, if there is a maintenance, there is some, some component is broken in the autoclave. So that is fine. Once you document that some component is broken and you're waiting for the replacement, you can't able to do even the validation. So that time you have to wait till you replace the broken part, and then definitely if the broken part is going to be impacting the product quality, correct, then you have to do a revalidation. Policies described in relevant documentation like quality manual or validation master plan. So usually all these data, whatever we speak now, right, everything will be written in a document. So that is the helpful data for you to understand that you are not doing everything from your mind. It is already written and well established and approved by many teams. Okay, what are the types of documentations in the qualification and validation? Validation master plan, that is the main document which guides all other documents. Okay, that is something like a Bible for the validation activities. Then comes as the validation protocol. So that is the second document which will be originated from the validation protocol. There may be some set of SOPs also. Validation report. So all these are the documentation involved in the validation and qualification process. Documentation clearly defines responsibility of performing validation. Who has to do what? Because validation is not a single person's job. For example, if you have an autoclave in the microbiology department, then user department will be playing a major role. Along with the user department, instrumentation, electrical, QA, validation experts, all will come for the purpose of discussion. You are not left alone. Okay. Similarly, take an example. The same autoclave can be also in the production area, because the autoclave is needed also in the production area. So if that autoclave wants to be validated, then obviously they need a team of production personnel, validation team, QC team, microbiology team, QA, and any other electrical and engineering team. Because why the QC is needed? There will be some sample given for testing for QC purpose. Why the microbiology department is needed? There will be some set of samples will be given to microbiology for testing purpose. Okay, so to support on this, to understand that what are all your roles, so these are the responsibilities will be defined clearly in the documentation part. Conducted in accordance with the predefined approved validation protocol. Yes, everything will be, after proper training, you should start the activities. Recorded results and conclusion present in written validation reports. Prepared and stored. Yes, so all the records will be documented in the validation report. Process and procedure should be established the basis of these results. Okay, as I mentioned, once everything has been completed, the validation is successful, the procedure has been revised or updated according to the outcome of the validation result. That is that's the reason I told about the autoclave. If I'm using new parameter for 135°, if the successful result has come, then you have to go and update your SOP for updating or including your 135° Celsius sterilization process as well. So importance, premises, utilities, equipment, and process. So anything which is a direct product quality, okay, which needs to be validated. For example, if you are shipping the material from one place to another place, okay, after all completed, the batch is completed, everything is packed, and now you are going to ship the material from one place to other place, that is called as a transport validation. What is the purpose? If this cold chain requirement is there, any medicines needs a 2 to 8° or minus 70°. So accordingly, you should have a stabilized control environment, that is called cold chain controlled environment, where your products are kept inside the controlled environment and kept along with the data logger, and then it goes to the particular destination till it's reached to the particular destination and it's moved to their the receiver's control in the required intended location. So your process of mapping the movement of material lies with you. So that's why this is called transport validation. Okay, so critical importance and particular attention paid to validation. Of course, analytical test method is important. Automated systems are there with a computerized system, cleaning procedure. So these all needs a high attention for the validation purpose. So anything you name in the industry, think there is a background whether it needs a validation or not. Okay, if you are cleaning a test tube, yes, that should be a validation. Okay, if you are using a refrigerator for a critical purpose, for storing your product or any reference standards, yes, your refrigerator should be validated. Okay, think about any piece of instrument and its intended use, whether it's directly impacting the product quality or GXP environment, then that means the validation. Now, list of qualification requirements for this piece of equipment. Yeah, something is there, the equipment they are working, and this is the picture you can see within the clean room, because the person is fully gowned. Possibly this is a sterile gown, and you can see some tag is hanging below. So that is the simple calibration tags. I think you can see the tag, right? There is one outlet and there is one SS handle with the tag. So the person is operating the HMI, which is a kind of SCADA system or computerized system, which needs to be validated. So after validation, he has to do the activity. This looks like a reactor. So this is the tag I was mentioning. I think it's not visible in your, now it's coming. So this is the tag I was mentioning. And this is the tag, other tag was there below to the same. I was mentioning about that. So this tag will have the information about some calibration due date or whatever may be. So what are all the data needed in the validation master plan? I'm just waiting for the screen to move. I think it takes a long time. Oh, sorry, it has come. So qualification validation. So validation master plan may contain following elements. Okay, approval page and table of contents. Obviously, all the documents should have the table of content and the approval page. Introduction and objectives, it's common. Facility and process description, and personal planning, and how you are scheduling the validation program, calibration program, responsibility of validation team members. All these information should be there in the validation master plan. Process control aspects. Okay, equipment, list of equipments, apparatus, and process equipment, qualified or validated, and to be validated or qualified. So all the data should be there for the future process of requalification or revalidation also. Okay, acceptance criteria is very, very important. So any piece of validation strategy you are applying, there should be a defined acceptance criteria. How to do the documentation, validation protocol and report requirements, SOPs, training requirements, or you may be having some, during the execution, you may be having some incident or deviation or change control requirements. How you are going to follow that quality systems. So all data should be well written in the validation master plan. And the next thing is about objective of the validation and qualification studies. That is very important. Site of the study, responsible person, and these are all to be provided in the protocol. Okay, description of the equipment, SOP to be followed. What are the standards you are going to use for temperature calibration or pressure calibration or whatever may be. Criteria for the relevant products and process. So this is something in the validation protocol. So the next is about the validation report. So protocol is something dictates the activities how we are going to do. A report is something after completing the activity, it's a documentation, outcome of the validation activity. So there should be something like title should be there, objective of the study, reference of the protocol, details of material, equipment, instruments, personnel, who are all done this activity, the personal side, who are all supported for this execution. Programs and cycles used. Okay, for example, if you have any autoclave program is there, how to set the temperature and everything, cycles, and detail of procedure that and tested methods. Okay, so these are the things should be explicitly provided in the validation report. So new approaches recommend that manufacturers should perform a risk assessment as part of their approach to validation. Yes, this is very, very important. Any validation should have a risk assessment priorly performed. What is the purpose of the risk assessment? So to understand if I'm capable of doing this 135-degree for autoclave. So the risk assessment should be done. Yes, the supplier has already witnessed that the autoclave can withstand and go to the maximum pressure of 1.5 kg per centimeter square. So all these data are the useful data to ensure that the piece of instrument what you are having within your premises is suitable for upgradation or suitable for another setting of parameters. If when you do this risk assessment, let's take an example. If the particular autoclave is not having a temperature limit beyond 125 degree, then obviously you can't do a 135 degree because you can't able to see with the existing temperature probe because the limit is less for that. So then you have to upgrade the probe. Then you have to go for change control, and then you have to come for this scenario. So all these comes with the risk assessment. So you have to assess the risk. For example, if there is a safety issue, whether your safety person should tell that, yes, this is not having a much safety issue, you can able to do this activity there. So all comes under the risk assessment. Risk assessment can be useful, identifying the need for a qualification or the extent or the scope of the qualification, area of focus in process validation, and also sometimes for cleaning validation. So these are the support of risk assessment to identify the piece of instrument can be successful. There is currently a move to change the approach of qualification and validation. The principle remains, however, the same. The US and EU guidance now focus on process qualification, which covers the complete life cycle of a product, which additionally focus on product design. Okay, so during the product design, there is a need to focus on the process qualification as well. 3 phases are identified that covers process design, process qualification, and continued process verification. So in your ICHQ 12, I believe this will be there, a continued process verification requirement. Okay. So this is the one. Phase 1 is the process. So here I'm waiting for the next slide to turn from your end. So now here you can see the process design. The next step is process qualification, and once the qualification is completed, continued process verification, which means that after successful completion, see, process design is something in the R&D stage. That is the phase 1. Process qualification is something after the R&D, but new to the commercial production, which means something like a technology transfer has been done. We are in the launching of the new product. So that time you are qualifying the process. So once you qualified the process, every batch will be subjected for continued process verification. That is the phase 3, which means all the technical analytical data have been taken for a trending purpose to ensure that the process is continuously giving the intended result. Okay, so the expectation of the validated process is always the limit of specification should meet. That is expectation. So from the WHO reference, supplementary guidelines on good manufacturing practices validation, including details about validation of HVAC system, as I mentioned, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. So temperature and RH is controlled through this. So there is a procedure how to do this validation. Validation of water system for pharmaceutical use. Many places you use water in the industry. All the water supplied should be tested and validated to meet its requirement, because you'll be using to clean the equipment, clean the area, clean the utensils or whatever may be. So whatever is the case, water should be validated, and that point should be identified from which point you are taking the water for the cleaning purpose or whatever may be. So cleaning validation, obviously your detergents, because after you clean, the detergent should not be left in the sticking in the utensils or any reactors, right? So that should be also eliminated. So that will be taken care by the cleaning validation process. Analytical method validation. Any method you're using, that also needs to be validated. So QC will be driving this analytical method validation. We have a separate chapter in the QC core subject. Validation of computerized systems. So we have a special course for computerized system validation. There we'll be discussing detailed about the computer system requirement. Qualification of system and equipment. Okay, generally all the systems and equipment to be qualified. Non-sterile process validation. So there is a procedure how to do a non-sterile process validation. Please be focused. We are not much discussing on the non-sterile part. Everywhere we speak on the sterile concepts. So examples of priorities for process validation. Type of process, it's a new, every new process before approval or for routine. So it needs to be validated. Existing, for existing sterile products, all process affecting the sterility and manufacturing environment, including sterilization stage. Okay, it needs to be validated. It's a process. For non-sterile, low dose tablet and capsules, mixing and granulation, content uniformity, and other parameters should be validated. Other tablets and capsules, uniformity of mass and other parameters also needs to be a part of your process validation testing. Okay, so after the process validation, there will be rigorous testing of the process to ensure that this is a conformance. The data is in as per the intended use, or as per the accepted limits, or as per the defined specification. Whatever you name it, that is apt. And this is a short group exercise. We can exclude that. And this is again a group exercise we can exclude. So possible issues in the qualification and validation: lack of time. because if you are not expert in the area, you will be taking more time to complete this activity. So lack of time, and people will be always in hurry because the dispatch of the equipment will be always less, delayed time. And once it reaches to the site, people will be in hurrying to do the validation process. Lack of personnel. Okay, there will be, if you have 10 to 20 equipments come on board, new equipments, and you have only 5 to 10 member team, it will be difficult to do all the validation at the same time. So one by one you have to do. In that case, outsourcing of technical consultant will be helpful for them to complete the task within a given time. Lack of experience and knowledge. Sometimes there will be possible issues in the qualification and validation package because the person who is involved is not having a suitable knowledge. Change of the process. Prospective versus retrospective validation. Okay, so these are the possible issues. Lack of documentation, infrastructure, lack of implementation of validation, poorly designed documents. So all these are the different way of impacting the quality of your validation documents. This is another session. Fine. Yeah, I think here we end this session with qualification and validation. So if you have any queries, we can ask now, or you can raise the hand in this term. And if you have any specific, you may be come across some experience how to get validated some process in your laboratory scale. For example, balance. Okay, balance will be qualified by a different weight, keeping like that. So if you have any queries, we can discuss now. But for the day, we have completed with both the course, and tomorrow we'll be planning for the different topics. So now, if you have any queries, we can start to discuss. Or if not, you can go with your technical query form, where definitely we'll be answering the discussions of your queries. So anyone wants to discuss, you can raise your hands so that we can take a call for further discussion. If not, you can share your chat. If not, you have your technical form, query form, to address your queries. That's fine. Great. So I think no much discussion. I hope people might be following the the course, right? So please pay attention that if you find any time any difficulties, please raise your voice to update us, so that we will be definitely looking for you. Okay. There was a query: does calibration comes under validation? For example, pipette calibration. Very good question. Of course, we didn't touch about the calibration part. I hope there will be some program in the session. We will talk about that. Calibration is different. Validation is different. Okay, what is then calibration? Okay, so calibration is nothing but when you have defined, okay, the pipette should deliver 1 ml of solution, and during its routine use, okay, when you keep pressing the the pipette tip, the pipette dispensing side, when you're giving continuous workload for that, obviously after some time there will be a drift in the dispensing of the volume. So that plays a very important role in the pipette. Okay, if there is a minute variation, drift in the data, okay, drift in the machine setup, then that will be delivering a different volume, right? So that is not going to do anything with the validation. What we have to do at periodic, like 3 months once or 6 months once, the industrial practice is every at least once in a year, pipette needs to be calibrated, not the glass pipettes. Okay, because glass pipettes will not get any damage. Of course, if it's broken, we have to throw it. Okay, if it is disposable, it's a one-time use which comes with a calibrated certificate, no problem. Disposable pipettes. Only in case of micropipette, which is a mechanical pipette, where you use a disposable tip plugging into the system and delivering. That time, this calibration is needed every minimum 1 year or 6 months. By that time, how you will do, there is a separate procedure for pipette calibration. So calibration is a different topic, validation is a different topic. Calibration, if it fails, you have to adjust the device to deliver a right required volume. So that needs an adjustment if it is failed. If it is not failed within the limit of specification, then the calibration is passed. So every time periodically you have to check the dispensing volume. How you verify then volume? So you have to go to the balance, and there is a a set of procedure how to do a pipette calibration. So you have to go to the balance, take a small conical flask, and then dispense, and you have to check the weight. If I dispense 1 ml, what is the volume? Then there is a error corrections for liquid to weight when you're converting the ml to m in the gram, right? After applying all this calculation, and your what is this other one called, water density is also applied there in the calculation. So then you will come to a solution that yes, this pipette is delivering the required solution or required volume of solution. So that is calibration. I hope that will be clear. If you want to deep dive into the topic how these testings are done, okay, that then you can Google it for the micropipette calibration process. Or if not, surely if I get, I'll circulate within the WhatsApp group. Okay, there is a next query. Could you again explain the significance of destruction of data in data lifecycle? Okay, I think this is a topic which we discussed in the morning about the data, right? Perfect. So what is the destruction of data? We are going to throw the data out, which is not needed further in our premises. Why? Maybe the product is very old, 10 years back old data, we don't want to keep it now. We can throw it. Okay, so the starting of the data, what we told is something, generation of the data. Maybe manually you generate the data, or electronically you will be generating the data from the system. So once you generate the data, right, that will be processed. In the manual, it is not processed, its process means reviewed. In the manual documentation, the processing is something that a second person is reviewing and providing it is signed by authentication. Okay, he's signing the check by sign. In the electronic version, processing is something that internal calculation, inbuilt calculation is happening, and then it comes to the reporting format. So once it turned to the report format, your electronical signature can be applied by the reviewer. Once it has been done, you can either take a printout and keep together, or it can be electronically saved. Okay, these are the general documents, something like your HPLC analysis report, or your temperature monitoring sensor data, or it may be your FTIR spectrum report, UV spectrum report, whatever you term it as. Okay, that is having some shelf life. What is the shelf life of the document? It is equivalent to the product shelf life. So for example, you done a testing for today, and the product is the product shelf life is like next 2 years. So after 2023, okay, now we are in 2021. So after 2023, that document is obsolete. It's no more used because the product is expired. But still, some may be in the market, so we need to wait at least for additional 1 year. The guideline expectation is expiry plus 1 year. So if expiry is 2023, additionally you have to keep the documents for another 1 year, that is 2024. So after that, you can destroy certain documents, but most of the companies will not take the risk, so they wait for at least 10 years. They keep a best expiry date for all the documents. 10 years they will throw it, because all the data, any pharmacovigilance issues or market surveillance issue, phase 4 clinical trial issues, everything will be solved by the time. So after 10 years, they are very without any criticality, they can throw all the documents. how they throw. That is a destruction process, right? They can't easily throw it. They should have a document evidence that these these documents, batch records, analytical documents have been shredded using the shredder equipment. Okay, there is a paper shredder. Some numbering will be there. On this date, particular day, this batch records are shredded in front of QA. So the QA will take an authorization. Yes, this package of document has been shredded, and that will be considered as the end of the life of that paper. So this is the destruction process of the paper records. How the electronic records goes for the destruction. Okay, since usually the electronic records are easy to handle, they will archive in a server or in a tape. Okay, that is kind of a hard drive. So they take all the data because we can able to easily maintain even tons of data, right? Because we have a huge capacity, we are talking in TBs and ZBs and all. So it is possible for us to archive the data in the cloud-based system or server-based system or hard drive system. But even that or documents also is capable of destruction. Of course, you know how to destruct the electronic data. Just go delete the data, that's fine. Okay, there is some vendors are available in the market for electronic waste disposable also. For example, you have some old servers or old hard drives which is not in use. There is a team to handle the e-waste also. But technically speaking, within the industry, you have rights after 10 years or something, you can discard all those electronic data. Perfect. Now, these are all routine data generated for the purpose of product. But I told something called lifetime data, right? Which is the SOP, for example, old SOP. Okay, that is considered as a lifetime data because you should know that what is the procedure you handled in the 2010. For example, in 2020, sorry, in 2010, what is the procedure you handle? The company should have the history of the change versions. So you can't able to destroy those data. You have to archive it. We call it as a obsolete versions. All the obsolete versions will be archived. Okay, existing version will be in the hands of the team wherever the execution is happening, but all the old versions will be archived, which will not be in the system. The reason, if any old data is there, people will get misused. Instead of reading the new data, the old data will be used for the execution. That's a serious non-conformance. This is the quality management system. When you are giving a new version, you always pull the old version back. This is important. Hope you understood about the significance of the destruction of the data. Is there any more queries left? Yep, that's good. Okay, thank you. So be open. You can ask any kind of questions related to the topics. And of course, please pay attention because yesterday we saw the technical query form has been loaded with some different discussions. Any kind of discussions, please come us through WhatsApp. We will be always there round the clock to support you on that. But consider the technical query form is only exclusively for the technical discussion. The reason that can be backed up and sent to you for future use. Okay, so in that place, we don't want to have some other non-technical discussion about our presentations or the stuffs, everything. So restrict the discussion with technical side, so it will be useful for your future use. So if you have any more discussions, let's discuss. If not, we can sign off the class. For today's day, we have done. I hope there's no much discussion then. Okay, so your technical form is in your hand. So always you're ready to use. Anytime you can discuss with us and come back for your queries. Yeah. Thank you, team. Thanks for your time. And tomorrow we'll see with the two different topics. And by this week, we are capable of completing the general modules, so that the next week will be a core topics. That is again an interesting one. in the each field. Okay, QA, QC, and CSV, as well as in GMP. So please pay attention. Thank you so much, team. Have a nice evening. Take care. Bye bye.